Let's cross to the Paris suburb of Fontainebleau. Annabelle Lever is professor of political philosophy at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po. Thanks for joining us here on France 24.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
A contrast in images, the garbage piling up in the capital and the preps that had to be scrapped for that state dinner at the Palace of Versailles. At what point did you start to truly wonder whether or not Charles could come?
Oh, the minute I heard he was coming, I just figured, this is ridiculous. It can't happen. I only heard about the visit, what was it, on Thursday, 2 days ago or whatever. I just assumed it wasn't going to go forward.
Yeah, well, it's something that had been in the works. And by the way, just to remind our viewers, it's not the king who decides where he goes on a state visit. It's his prime minister. There was a lot of political capital invested in a first visit abroad by a new king.
Yes, of course. It would have been wonderful for France, and it would have been a statement of their close ties. And clearly he's been several times before, I gather, while being Prince of Wales. So, it's a shame. It would have been reaffirming a close relationship. But clearly now is not the time. I take it quite dangerous.
Yeah, it's a blow for attempts to reset relations between France and the UK. After the bad blood during Boris Johnson's post-Brexit tenure. How much of a blow is it for Emmanuel Macron? Just what's the look for a president who can seem a little isolated after the events that have unfolded this week?
Yes, I may be wrong, but I don't have the sense that it's a huge blow in terms of relations between England and France. Now Johnson's gone. Clearly, with Rishi Sunak and the debates with Ursula von der Leyen, it's clear that things are warmer, and the agreement over Ireland has made things much closer. I also gather there are all sorts of complicated agreements going on over how to deal with people who want to leave France, leave the camps in Calais for England. So I don't think that in those terms it's serious in terms of the relationship between England and France. But I think in terms of the look for Macron, it is pretty serious because, either way, it was going to be a bit of a problem because he's managed to create for himself this image of, Jupiter, and in a way, the royal president, the monarchical president. And I must say, the idea of a state dinner in Versailles with the King of England couldn't be anything more likely to strengthen that sort of image, which I think would be problematic at the best of times, but especially now, especially with an economic crisis, especially with the country, parts of Paris up in flames, it's really not a great moment.
And parts of Paris up in flames. And we've seen the movement getting a lot more tense on Thursday after the railroading through Parliament of the legislation. It still has to be approved by the Constitutional Council, but another strike day planned for next Tuesday. And in the last minutes, the Council of Europe, which is not an EU institution, but still expressing its alarm over the excessive use of force in France. It says the government blames the far left, and demonstrators blame police force as a government tactic.
Yes, I was just reading up in preparation for this interview what was going on exactly, because I've been busy teaching the past few days. But it seems to me that there really are two issues. One is the use of what in England we call kettling, which the Constitutional Court decided, I think was it 2021, is illegal unconstitutional as a form of policing of first resort. But it sounds like that's sort of what has been happening in Paris, that the police have really been trying to use that. And on top of it, I've heard there have been all sorts of things where, police on motorbikes rolling over the leg of somebody, a young man deliberately who'd fallen on the ground, and various other cases. So I quite understand that there were worries about the excessive use of force on the part of the police.
France's Interior Minister pointing to the fact also that there have been more than 400 law enforcement agents who've been injured. There was the head of security for this northern city of Lille who got hit by a cobblestone, a police station that was attacked in the western city of Lorient. The violence running both ways.
It is, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but there's been an issue about how to protect particularly local government members for quite a long time in France. A little bit like in England, actually, but I think the recent events in France the past couple of years have been more troubling. So I think a lot of them actually feel very defenseless, and there really is an issue about how far security for local members of parliament, but also for mayors and deputies, is adequate. And I take it that must be part of what's going on at the moment.
If it does become more violent now, and it's obviously become more tense enough that they had to scrap that royal visit, does that help or hurt Emmanuel Macron?
Well, I think it hurts him, but I'm hoping that Laurent Berger's request for a pause of 6 months in the reform.
This is the head of the CFDT trade union.
Yes, I think that would be very good, because I think he's right. Temperatures are really anger on all sides is running high. But on top of it, the problem is you've got huge amounts of rubbish still in the streets of Paris that are catching fire. And so I think, was it yesterday or the day before, there was nearly a residential building that went up in flames. So the issue isn't just that people are deliberately causing trouble. It's there's a high risk of an accident that nobody intended. And so trying to pacify people seems to me really urgent. And that's going to be urgent for all sides. But as president, and therefore the representative of the French people, I take it it's going to be particularly urgent for Macron.
All right. The ball in the president's court, you say. Annabelle Lever, many thanks for joining us.